So my name's Dan Polta. I work with the Denali Borough School District and I'm their superintendent. I've been there for 9 years this time and also began my teaching career in the district back in 1995. I worked there as a teacher and principal until 2003 when I left. When I left the district in 2003, I actually went overseas. So I worked in Syria, Pakistan, and Guatemala before returning to Alaska. I worked with one of the correspondence programs in the state for a couple years and then was hired as superintendent in Denali. It's an interesting district because we're rural and road system. A lot of rural districts in the state are remote, meaning they're fly-in communities. They're not connected to the rest of the state by road, and we're on the main highway that connects Anchorage and Fairbanks. And so that makes us pretty unique. The towns are all really small, with Healy kind of the largest town at about 1,000 people, but very spread out, maybe over 10 square miles at least. And then a small village of Cantwell in the southern part of the district that has a traditional Native community as part of it. And then the city of Anderson in the northern part of the borough, which is kind of the bedroom community of Clear Space Force Station. And so that community was actually built in the late 1960s as like the construction camp for that Air Force base when it was created. Well, in 1995, what brought me there, that was like kind of my first teaching job, and it was more like the sense of adventure coming to Alaska, and they offered me a job, and I took it. It was one of only 2 offers. But what brought me to Alaska and got me to consider moving here was a summer that I spent living in Fairbanks with a friend of mine, a college friend who was from Fairbanks. We just stayed with his family, and I just really loved the kind of the outdoorsness, the scenicness of it, and the sense of community that I witnessed with him and his family just as they'd go around the town of Fairbanks, kind of like knowing so many people around there. I thought to myself, this is the type of place that I'd like to be. And so when I was graduated from college and started really thinking about where do I want to go and live, that had me kind of gravitate back to Alaska. When I returned from overseas, I was actually working in the Anchorage area, and we were my wife and I were thinking, well, what do we do? Do we keep doing this? And we were actually thinking about going back overseas. And a friend of mine who was kind of connected with the Denali Borough School District knew that they had an opening for a superintendent. And they contacted me and said, hey, we think you should apply. And then the recruiter that the district had coordinated with to do their hiring process also reached out to me and asked me to apply. And we said, well, that would help keep us in Alaska. And so I applied fully kind of thinking that we would not get the job at all and that we'd be headed overseas again. And instead, I was offered the position, and this is now halfway through year 9 with the district. Wow. When I was flying with my wife back to Anchorage after our job interview, so we'd gone up to Fairbanks and driven down to the district and then went back to Fairbanks and we're flying back to Anchorage. It was February 9th. It was not a full moon, but the moon was out and it was clear. And so as we're flying in the jet, standard 737 commercial jet, the pilot says, hey, everybody on the right side, the mountain's out and it's really gorgeous. He said, hey, everybody, I'm going to circle the mountain. So an Alaska Airlines full commercial jet detoured, burnt whatever fuel he needed, and did a complete circumnavigation of Denali before bringing us back to Anchorage. And we thought that was like one of the most amazing things to experience that on that type of flight. It wasn't a flight seeing trip or anything. It was just, again, that commercial jet. And to think that pilot had whatever authority he needed, that the corporation said, hey, if the mountain's out, go ahead, do it, circle it, burn that extra fuel, it's worth it. It was something just really special. It really kind of stood out as a memory of Denali and of Alaska, to just be able to have that experience. big thing I think with working in Denali is it gives people the opportunity to have that really remote kind of like small school experience where you really get to know kids, you get to know their parents, you get to see them kind of year after year, you get to see that kind of that long arc of their development and their maturation that you don't see in large schools. And you get that while being connected to the road system, which makes that rural living a lot easier. It might be 2-hour drive to get to like a doctor's office for an appointment or for a dental appointment, but that's a 2-hour drive. It's not a flight. That's not something that's often has to be canceled due to weather. And so it's an kind of like easily accessible rural experience, both in that small town and then that access to nature is just step off the highway and you're truly in wilderness.